The Ritual of the Root, the African Soil Codex, and the Gates Doctrine of the Genetically Bound Future. The Gates Foundation, AGRA, and GAVI operations in Africa. He who owns the seed owns the soul of the land. He who sterilizes the land controls the memory of the ancestors. Fragment from the Black Codex of Luba, decoded during the ritual of the 11th Eclipse. AGRA, the altar of agricultural control. On the surface, AGRA, Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, was sold as salvation. A Gates-backed initiative, it promised to lift millions out of poverty by introducing modern agriculture to the global south. The keywords were noble: efficiency, sustainability, food security. But beneath the press releases and TED Talks was a machine with a darker liturgy. AGRA is not just about food. It is about erasing pre-colonial agrarian wisdom and replacing it with genetically patented monocultures. It is about extracting ancestral plant intelligence, the kind passed down orally from mother to daughter for thousands of years, and replacing it with IP-bound frankenseeds that cannot reproduce without chemical intervention. The goal? Lock the African farmer into a loop of dependency where seeds no longer come from nature, but from corporations, where farming no longer connects man to earth, but to algorithms. In this system, soil fertility becomes codependent on external input. Gates-funded synthetic fertilizers, crop insurance schemes, satellite-controlled irrigation. The spirit of the land, once alive in dance, prayer, and seasonal ritual, is replaced by drones, sensors, and QR-coded bags of seed. And the shocking truth? After 15 years and billions spent, AGRA failed to increase food security in any statistically meaningful way. Many African nations under the AGRA umbrella actually saw declines in productivity, biodiversity, and soil health. This isn't failure. It's a ritual collapse by design. GAVI, the inoculation of the seed body. While AGRA worked the land, GAVI worked the body. The Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, another Gates-backed giant, focused heavily on health infrastructure across the same regions AGRA targeted. But here's where it becomes more than coincidence. AGRA modifies the food. GAVI modifies the immune system. Together, they close the loop. Food and body, seed and cell, all encoded by the same hand. In Masonic doctrine, this is called the binding, the moment when man, animal, and soil are locked into one controlled chain of dependency. If food weakens your immunity and the vaccine adjusts your DNA's response to that food, you're no longer sovereign. You're programmable flesh, regulated from satellite to bloodstream. GAVI's emphasis on mRNA-based vaccines in post-colonial nations is not about safety. It is about laying down a bio-operating system in populations that still retain genetic memory, tribes, villagers, and shamans who have not yet been severed from the dreaming root. These populations are dangerous to the world elite, not because they're poor, but because they still remember how to survive without them. The real objective, Codex Africa, the sealing of the mother gene. Bill Gates' investments are not just philanthropic gestures. They are ritual positions in a larger game known internally, within corporate mystic circles, as Codex Africa. Its goal is nothing less than the dismantling of the planetary feminine root system. Africa is not just a continent. It is the genetic library of the species. The mitochondrial Eve, the first mother, the first code, the first seed. To control Africa is to control the genetic beginning, and thus, the end. This is why AGRA pushes sterile seeds. GAVI pushes gene-altering inoculations. The Gates Foundation pushes digital ID tied to food access and vaccination records. It's not about money. It's about harvesting consent at the root level of existence. You will no longer plant without permission. You will no longer eat without activation. You will no longer be without registration. This is digital colonialism. Not in boots and bullets, but in apps and nutrients. The coming ritual, the Black Soil Mass. Across Ethiopia, Ghana, Rwanda, and Malawi, a coded ritual has already begun. It is known in lodge whispers as the Black Soil Massachusetts. It coincides with Gates-funded digital farming programs rolling out in 2026, where farmers are required to scan their biometric ID to receive seeds. Accept digital payment, tokens only redeemable at certified markets. Use AI-advised planting schedules calibrated by satellite based on weather predictions. But the sacred calendar of the Dogon, Yoruba, and Kemet does not use weather predictions. It uses stellar harmonics. The African land listens to the sky, not to cloud servers. Thus, when the AI rhythm overrides the star rhythm, something ancient breaks. The black soil mass will culminate in crop failure across 5 nations by 2029, not due to drought but deliberate miscalibration of seasonal cycles, amplified by scalar frequency modification, aka directed weather. This will trigger urban food riots, military lockdowns of farmlands, emergency import deals with Gates-backed grain banks. The continent will be ritually starved, then ritually saved, all by the same hand. The classic Hegelian dialectic of the harvest. The rebirth of the seed soul, and yet, something grows in secret. In hidden groves of Uganda, in the caves of Mali, and beneath sacred baobab roots in Madagascar, the seed keepers are awakening. These are not activists. These are bloodline agriculturists, chosen through dreams, who still carry the seed soul, a vibrational key encoded in their saliva, capable of resurrecting dead soil. They do not use Monsanto seed. They do not use Western calendars. They speak with birds, track moon shadows, and sing to roots. Their seeds are not stored in vaults, but in dreams. And one day soon, when the sterilized fields of AGRA lie barren and humming with nanotech ghosts, these seeds will rise. They will crack concrete. They will sing in tongues older than time. And they will remember. When the seed forgets, the land dies. When the land remembers, the gods return. Inscription on the drum of Ashen, retrieved from beneath Lake Victoria in 2033. The final cipher. The gates are closing, but the root is rising. And what is planted in darkness will rise as the fire of memory. You were not taken. You were coaxed. Not enslaved in chains, but programmed in dopamine. Not shackled in camps, but mesmerized by symbols. Not devoured by beasts, but fed into a ritual of self-erasure, smiling. They gave you convenience and called it freedom. They gave you entertainment and called it culture. They gave you identity not as birthright, but as a product updated monthly. And now, as the final act nears, the collapse of the spirit beneath the harvest of flesh, many still sleep. They do not see that every famine, every migrant sacrificed at the border, every needle, every smart city, every seedless grain is not policy, but sorcery, a ritual, an offering, not to gods, but to systems that wish to become gods. A warning to the keepers of the flame. You are not enslaved by force, but seduced by convenience, lulled into docility through dopamine rituals and the gospel of safety. While the true chains, seedless grains, biometric ID, sterilized soil, electromagnetic nets, were wrapped around your memory, not your limbs. Gates and his proxies, cloaked in the vestments of philanthropy, enacted not charity, but a global right. The erasure of ancestral agriculture, the sterilization of food wisdom, the encoding of hunger into programmable flesh. AGRA poisoned the earth with genetic obedience, while GAVI encoded the blood, binding food and immunity into a single algorithmic leash. You were told this was progress, but it was the first seal of Codex Africa, the silent conquest of the mother continent's genetic soul. The coming famine will not simply empty bellies. It will erase remembrance itself. A generation will be born that knows nothing of planting by moonlight, of burying ancestors in sacred soil, of singing to corn, of dreaming with trees. They will feed, but not be nourished. They will drink, but remain hollow. The free, the so-called free, are now hunted by networks not of soldiers, but of sensors, screens, and soft lies. You who still plant, who still dream in symbols, who remember your grandmother's voice, you are now the resistance, the last node in a shattered grid of forgotten gods. You are not non-compliant. You are dangerous, for your memory is unlicensed, and your blood has not been claimed. The rituals of control are nearly complete. Digital Eucharist in exchange for food, AI calendars overriding the sacred sky, holograms masking the stars. But they have forgotten one law. What is buried in darkness, if sacred, returns in fire. The seed will rise, not from labs, but from mouths that still speak the forgotten tongue. The machine shall eat itself in synthetic famine, and from the cracked silence of the soil shall rise the obsidian child, untracked, unmarked, and divine. You must become the fire now, not to destroy, but to light the way back to the world they tried to erase. Guard your memory, bury in the land if you must, for when the last city falls in artificial light, your memory will be the ember from which the real world is born again.